This is going to be a quick tutorial on creating a West Coast whistle sort of synth in Reason. The synth is fairly basic to create, and it doesn't take a whole lot of work, but it's an interesting sound, and it's a good one to sort of know about and mess around with. So anyways, there's a couple different styles. I'm going to talk about the main elements that create the whistle, but this is the specific sound that we're going to be doing. So I'm going to open up a new thing of Reason. I'm going to start with a Thor. You can really use any sort of synth, and different synths with different oscillators will give different flavors. But I am so hooked on the Thor that I just always go to it. So the analog oscillator is fine. Sawtooth wave is what we're going to want. Adjust the octave so you get the right sort of octave for where you play. I just generally adjust the octave on my actual keyboard. So yeah, it's up to you how you want to do that. This is an initialize patch, so keep that in mind. So you're going to want to go to initialize patch, which is in this area, or if you're in a newer version of Reason like I am, then you want to go to reset device, and that will give you this, and sound like this, which is actually not too far away because we just have a single oscillator and a sawtooth, which is what we're going to sort of want for the basics of a West Coast whistle. First thing that I do is I take off this filter. You can mess around with having the filter on, but just at least when I'm getting started, I leave the filter off. The other thing that you are going to want to do is you're going to want to switch it to a monophonic synth. So right now it's a polyphonic, polyphonic synth, meaning multiple notes can be played at one time. And that can be set here, so I could bring this down to 1. So one note will only be played at a time, or you could just go to mono retrit or mono legato, and that will make it so only one note will be played at a time. But if you notice as I play, it gets quieter, and that's because of this amp envelope. So if we want that to not turn down over time, then we're going to want to bring the sustain all the way up, so it's not going to turn down at all, no matter how long I play it, which is what we want. The other really sort of important element of the West Coast whistle sort of sounds is having a bend between notes, and you get that with portamento or glide, as some synths call it. You could just turn this on, which is fine, which gets the big sound, but I actually like using auto, and that just gives you a little bit more versatility. Basically, auto means it will only bend if you play one note right after another note. So if I play notes individually, they don't get bend between each other, but if I play them legato or one right after another, then they bend into each other. Then the portamento amount is how fast it glides. So if it's really low, it glides really quickly, so you don't really even notice it. If you have it way up, it glides really slowly, which is probably a bit too slow. I think what works well for this is around mid 40s or mid 30s, something like that. And yeah, that's pretty much all you need to do to get the basic West Coast whistle sound. From here, I just did a couple things. Adding reverb is always good. That's something that is often done. Give it space. And you can adjust this to how you like. The other thing I did is I added a little bit of width, and I did that by opening up a second oscillator with the exact same sawtooth, octave, and everything. I just adjusted the tune from each other a little bit. So I adjusted this one down, this one up. It just makes it a little bit wider sounding, which is a sort of flavor that you can add to your whistle. And then, I don't know, I think I added a little bit of chorus, brought down the dry wet. and then anything from here is totally your own sort of flavor. So you could bring the filter back in and mess around with this depending on your own sort of preference. Another thing that I'll mess around with is choosing different waveforms. So instead of a sawtooth wave, I might go with a triangle or sine wave. It's sort of up to you. And another thing I'll mess around with is bring the octave of one of these oscillators down. And that lower octave is probably a bit too powerful, so I'll adjust the mix so that the first oscillator, the higher oscillator, is more powerful. And that just adds a little bit of lower end to that whistle, but it's totally up to you. And I could even play this an octave higher now. But yeah, anyways, mess around with throwing distortions on or throwing different types of effects on. But the basic concept is a single oscillator or an oscillator with a sawtooth wave, a mono or a monophonic synth, a little bit of portamento, and the amp envelope sustain all the way up. And you pretty much have your sound. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video, so I'm going to leave it here. Hopefully you got something out of this, and thanks for watching.